all for coming. My name's Rudy Gleason, as you can see on the slide, and I'm the faculty director of the Global Leadership Living and Learning Community at Georgia Tech. I'm also a professor there in mechanical engineering and biomedical engineering. And I just wanted to introduce you in a couple minutes about what the Global Leadership Living and Learning Community is, and then from there I'm going to turn it over to some of our students that represent a much broader group of students in this community. So we're an inclusive first-year community for students who want to have an impact on the world. That's sort of who we are. And our mission, as has been the theme for a lot of sessions today, is around the UN SDGs. Exploring things like culture and coursework and excursions and service projects. So this is our staff. I've got the most informal picture now that I look at this right here. Ashley's here, and Bryn couldn't make it today, but this is our leadership team. And here's just a few slides of some of the things we do. We bring people in from outside to meet with small groups of our students, and we do field visits and service projects and retreats, and probably the best part is the student-led action teams and the mentors that we have in this program. And we have a lot of events really aimed towards building community among these 120 or so students, but also making linkages to things related to the SDGs. We do Trees Atlanta, and we've done Rise Against Hunger events, and soccer games and basketball games as well. So I teach the core required course for global leadership, and this just gives a little bit of a highlight of some of the things we do. We talk about the SDGs and learn about each one of them and spend some time on each. But what you'll hear about today is sort of one of the main deliverables for this course is these teams, these students, these are incoming freshmen at Georgia Tech. They write a research grant, an NIH-style research grant, and they come up with an innovative solution to something that will move forward the UN SDGs. And they come up with this within the first few weeks. They start within the first few weeks of course and work on it all semester. So that's what you're going to hear about today. And I just wanted to introduce you to some students. These are not global leadership students. This was taken 15 years ago, actually. So that's the 15-year younger version of myself. And these are 4 Georgia Tech students that I went to Cameroon, a rural village in Cameroon, to find a clean water source for this village in Cameroon. And I just wanted to talk about these students for a second. This was an Engineers Without Borders trip, and these guys went on to do their senior capstone design project at Georgia Tech, where they built a solar latrine. So they built a latrine that uses the sun to cook the poop and decontaminate the poop, and then they used that poop for something, fertilizer or charcoal briquettes. Shortly after they graduated, they applied for a grant through USAID. They got a small grant, and 4 of them, on $50,000, moved to Chile to try to get this startup company off the ground. And they later got more funding, and they started a company called Sanovation, which is still formed today in Nairobi, Kenya. And so these guys were social entrepreneurs that were super passionate about something while they were students at Georgia Tech. And they sort of developed that passion at Tech, and then they launched it into something really important. And so this is a picture of me with Andrew in 2010, and this is me and Andrew in 2020, 10 years later in Nairobi, Kenya. This company was in Forbes, and it was as one of the most innovative companies in Kenya, and they really launched into something significant. And so this statement, I think, captures the essence of my motivation for teaching global leadership. Within months or years of identifying a passion at GT, these students innovated a solution, they secured funding, they started an organization, they moved to Chile, they moved to Nairobi, and now they're running this highly innovative organization that's doing something that they're very passionate about. And so my job is to convince first-year students at Georgia Tech that they actually can have a significant impact on the world and on the things that are most important to them. So we're gonna show some examples of their idea of their freshman year, first semester projects. You guys ready?
Good afternoon, my name is Yariel,
Hello, my name is Ebuka.
and today we're going to be talking about a grant proposal, a direct educational approach to reducing poverty in Nigeria.
Did you know that over 70 million Nigerians are living in multi-dimensional poverty with poor infrastructure and access to education as the leading causes? That makes Nigeria the largest population living in extreme poverty in the world, with 22 million people not having modern cooking fuel, 70 million people not having access to electricity, 12 million people not having access to clean water, 10 million people not having access to adequate housing, and over 20 million children are out of school, which is weird because the Nigerian government mandates free education to primary and secondary school children. But then if you go to Nigeria, like Lagos, for example, you see these primary and secondary school children on the road, like selling food, water, beverages to cars passing by in order to help provide for their family. This creates a pressing need to develop infrastructure within impoverished communities needed to sustain economic growth and reduce the number of Nigerians living in poverty.
So what we're proposing to do is to develop a streamlined engineering educational program which promotes modern infrastructure and ease of access to quality education and for these impoverished communities. So what do I mean by a streamlined engineering educational program? Essentially, the strategy is to prioritize impoverished communities within Nigeria, provide them access to food and quality education, specifically within engineering, so that they can develop the skills and the knowledge necessary to build the infrastructure within their community. And once they graduate, we would integrate them directly into infrastructure projects and provide them stipends so that they can sustain themselves as they work on improving the infrastructure within their community. And these are the different engineering disciplines that we've identified as critical to being able to develop a robust infrastructure within a community. And this is something that's needed, something that's not being fulfilled currently, because as we've seen, the Nigerian government has invested over $6 billion in infrastructure renovations within these impoverished communities, but they haven't closed yet.
Our first aim is to implement a pilot program in Ajegunle, Lagos, in Nigeria, to graduate at least 30 students and provide stipends to complete 3 engineering projects. The first project, housing and transportation infrastructure. Like we said before, 10 million Nigerians are living in inadequate housing. And for the transportation infrastructure, did you know that most public workers in Nigeria spend more in terms of getting to their jobs than what they actually earn per day, because fuel prices are very high right now and hence transportation is costly? The second project is agricultural infrastructure, and the third one is energy infrastructure. Like we said, 12 million Nigerians don't have access to electricity. These stipends will boost the number of Nigerian engineers working on infrastructure projects by at least 60%, according to a survey by the Nigerian Society of Engineers.
And so the way we plan to implement this program within Ajegunle is by coordination with a variety of government and nonprofit organizations. So we would start with the government to ensure that our program is compliant with all the policies and regulations and laws. And then once we've done that, we're going to look into contractors within Ajegunle to find a suitable place to build a facility to house our program's operations. And once we have that, we're going to recruit teachers from within Nigeria, especially engineers from the Nigerian Society of Engineers, to provide the mentorship and expertise needed to be able to develop these robust infrastructures within the community. And lastly, partnering with nonprofit organizations such as Rise Against Hunger to procure food for the students who are struggling to find food within their families. And once we have these partnerships in place, we're going to admit our first cohort of students, and we're going to give them the education. We're going to have them work with engineering projects hands-on so that they can develop the skills to build a robust infrastructure. And once they graduate, they'll be integrated directly into these infrastructure projects with funding from Nigerian government grants and the stipends from our donors as well. And this is our overall implementation plan for our program.
Our second aim is to create an incentive and supportive program that seeks 100% retention rate, because over 25% of children drop out of school, which also aids to the 20 million children out of school in Nigeria. We plan on doing this by connecting students, parents, and teachers, by event planning, and by communication. So for the event planning, we aim to do open houses, festivals, and informational presentations. Those will help the students feel in touch with their community and society. And for the communication, we plan on doing written communication channels and parent-teacher student conferences, so we can maintain the well-being of these families, of the students, and the parents can also check the progress of the students in these programs.
And so what we expect to gain out of this program is more engineers working to build Nigeria's future while preserving local cultures and history. With the first cohort graduated, we're going to integrate them with those projects, like we said, and we're going to be assessing the impact of these projects to see if it's actually something that's worth it, something that actually works, right? We're going to be measuring how many jobs are created, how many people have adequate housing, electricity, have access to clean water, and all these other metrics to ensure that these programs are actually having an impact. Once we've proven that the projects are having an impact, we're going to look to expand into other communities, seek more funding, and expand our impact throughout Nigeria. And once we've proven the efficacy of this program at a national scale, we're going to look to go global and partner with international organizations to target the SDG 1, eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere. And that is the end of our project. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for having us.
Any questions?
Thank you, guys. So maybe as the next group's coming up, we got time for maybe one question. Any questions from anybody?
I would just say, encourage you to look at the regional center of excellence in clean energy, which has been set up in Rwanda, that partners with some faculty at GT to do not exactly what you're proposing, but something similar that I really suggest you look at as a potential model for your project going forward.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Oh, yep, we're good. Bring the next guys down. Good job.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rashawn Regis.
I'm Celia Myers.
I'm Leah Aranis.
And I'm Uma Jala.
Imagine a child waking up in Haiti where nearly half the population suffers from acute food insecurity. For this child, hunger isn't just a temporary discomfort. It's a relentless struggle against malnutrition and even a fight for survival every day. Now envision a solution beyond providing food, but empowers communities from within. This isn't just nourishment, it's hope wrapped in sustainability. Crafted to suit local diets, produced by Haitian farmers, and distributed through trusted community networks, this approach revitalizes the economy and reaffirms the dreams of every single Haitian child everywhere. Despite billions in foreign aid since 2010, nearly 80% of Haiti lives in poverty, and 1 in 5 children face acute malnutrition. Frequent natural disasters, political instability, and corruption, and even pervasive gangs has disrupted food supply, food access, and even undermined agricultural lands, which causes families to focus more on costly imported goods. These factors collectively drive food insecurity and jeopardize the growth, health, and future of children in Haiti.
Okay, so ready-to-use therapeutic food, also known as RUTF, is the current most common and most well-tested method for treating severe acute malnutrition in children. Unfortunately, current RUTF brands don't utilize local resources. They're imported during times of emergency, meaning they're designed for rapid but temporary weight gain and foster a gradual reliance on foreign aid. Our innovation is different. A peanut cassava paste designed with Haitian families and infrastructure in mind in order to support gradual weight gain and weight maintenance. Peanut and cassava are 2 of Haiti's biggest crops, meaning they're also flavors already well incorporated within the Haitian diet. By using familiar ingredients, we'll be able to seamlessly and easily integrate this paste into the lives of families as a more culturally appropriate alternative to an otherwise foreign design product. Peanut and cassava are also good sources of essential nutrients. Peanuts are a staple for many RUTF brands because they contain lots of protein and lots of healthy fats. Cassava, on the other hand, is a good source of starch, carbs, and fiber. Cassava leaves are already well incorporated into many traditional Haitian household dishes, and similarly, by incorporating it into our paste, we'll be able to supplement in additional iron, vitamin A, and vitamin B. And lastly, peanut and cassava are 2 of Haiti's biggest exports, meaning that our paste production not only supports families by combating malnutrition, but also creates jobs and uplifts the profits of farmers.
So, in a world where technology is becoming more integral to helping us stay connected across the globe, we plan to utilize an effective AI-powered online database known as Hunger Map AI, which tracks food insecurity across regions in the world in real time. This will help us determine how we prioritize our distribution efforts within Haiti, streamlining our process for maximum efficiency and efficacy as we ensure that we tend to the most vulnerable populations first and in a timely manner. From the process of production of the paste up until consumption by the child, we plan to keep this process totally within the borders of Haiti in order to preserve the locality and accessibility to the Haitian population. This way, Haiti would no longer be limited to dependence as much on foreign aid, which can be rather inconsistent due to barriers such as inclement weather, deteriorating foreign aid relations, and physical inaccessibility due to poor infrastructure. So here we highlight some key steps of our delivery system, such as farming, where we will cultivate crops in the Port Arbanite and Port-au-Prince departments, central departments within Haiti, where we will cultivate peanut and cassava. Then from there, Accesso, which is an organization that connects local farmers to other Haitian-based organizations, will connect these farmers to the Caribbean Food Manufacturing Association. From there, the cultivated paste would be transported to 10 religious institutes in Port-au-Prince, where they'll be stored in food pantries. And from there, trained volunteers stationed at these food pantries will help in the distribution of paste to local communities.
So, to expand upon this idea, we hope to engage with over 25 farms in the Central Haitian area, and in doing so, we will also provide monetary means that nearly quadruple the amount of monetary incentives Haitians would receive otherwise. And so, a big part of this project is minimizing childhood malnourishment within the region, but also maximizing community engagement. And so we hope to work with pre-established organizations and specifically churches and their surrounding clinics and hospitals in order to really enhance this community engagement. And so with volunteers and nurses from these establishments, they can analyze BMI data and properly distribute this RUTF paste within these localized areas to promote a more personable approach. And so with the correct funding and support for this project, we can successfully implement it in Haiti. Thank you.
Maybe time for one quick question. Yep, in the back, please.
For funding, what is your start point? What do you need to start?
$103,000.
130?
No, 103,000.
And you already identified the farmers?
Yes, so in certain ports, as seen on the slides before, we have a list based on, oops,
Oh, no. There you go.
Oh.
Oop, the other way.
sorry.
Maybe the next group can come down, actually.
Yes, so specifically in Port-au-Prince, we have already established certain farmers we could possibly work with. The list is more expansive.
Good. Thank you, guys. Good job. Good job. Oop, who's this? Is it you guys?
So, hello everyone, my name is Daniel Gomez and these are my peers Reina Torrado and Ana Shaw. And as you heard earlier, we are students from the Global Leadership Living Learning community at Georgia Tech, and in the past semester, we were tasked to identify a global significant problem inside SDG 3, good health and well-being, and to create an innovative solution for it. Our focus was specifically on Target 3.3, which aims by 2030 to end the epidemics of malaria and other waterborne diseases.
Malaria is a mosquito-borne infectious disease. It spreads when an infected mosquito bites a person and the malaria parasite enters the bloodstream, goes into the liver and infects red blood cells, affecting many systems in the body and leading to death in many cases. So these mosquitoes reproduce in water. In fact, 50% of a mosquito's life cycle occurs in stagnant water, as seen in the diagram here.
So why is eliminating malaria so important? Well, in 2023, there were 263 million cases of malaria, and it was the cause of 597,000 deaths. In fact, by the end of this short 5-minute presentation, almost 6 children will have died due to malaria.
We're focusing on Nigeria because it has the highest global burden of malaria, accounting for about 27% of cases, followed by the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. Malaria is the second leading cause of death in Nigeria, so it's the most strategic location to focus our malaria prevention efforts. Nigeria is still struggling with malaria because of several reasons. Firstly, water drainage issues cause there to be more still water sites, which are the breeding ground for mosquitoes. Second, there's also been an increase in cases because of population growth, reduced intervention methods, and limited education on prevention methods. Also, the COVID-19 pandemic has led to an increase in cases and deaths. And finally, children are especially vulnerable to malaria because 80% of malaria deaths happen to children under 5.
Therefore, what are the issues that we want to address? Firstly and most importantly, both cost and access, as proper water treatment is both expensive and difficult to integrate into rural areas that at the end of the day are the ones most affected by these problems. Secondly, and also important, is the reception issue, as cultural beliefs impede certain procedures that are commonly used for sanitary health. For example, as was seen in Nigeria in the pandemic of COVID-19, in rural areas, almost half of the population did not want to get these vaccines because of different cultural beliefs and distrust in the organization that were creating and administering these vaccines. Also, mosquito population is a big problem, as mosquito reproduction in the stagnant bodies of water that are found near rural areas is massive in Nigeria, and this increases the probability of malaria being of malaria contraction by the population in the area. And lastly, practicality, as most solutions to the problem require both technicians and healthcare professionals that are usually not readily available to be in these rural areas at Nigeria. So our proposed solution for this problem is a water aeration device, which essentially is a little boat that pumps through water and keeps a stable flow of water to directly disrupt the mosquito reproduction cycle. These main features of this device would include, firstly, that it would be solar powered, which it does not only give a sustainable source of energy, but is also accessible in remote areas and takes advantage of the local weather conditions. Secondly, it also has an integrated mosquito larvicide release, which is a controlled slow release larvicide that is biodegradable in order to not only disrupt the reproduction cycle of mosquitoes, but also not harm the environment while doing this release. Thirdly, we need to talk about sensors, as a great part of our project is making it remote, and sensors are embedded in the device so we can monitor water quality and mosquito levels throughout any part of the world. And lastly, there's some extra features that include removable filters that capture debris to continue improving water quality in the stagnant bodies of water.
We've developed a 5-year plan that begins with designing, manufacturing, and testing the device, and then moves into community education, such as spreading awareness about why eliminating stagnant water is so important through proper household wastewater disposal. By the end of our 5-year plan, we expect to deploy 200 of our devices in Nigerian swamps, ponds, and lakes, which hopefully will yield a 50% decrease in viable mosquito larva populations that carry malaria. Thank you everyone for listening. Please feel free to scan this QR code for a copy of our full grant, and we'd love to answer any questions that you may have.
I'm just gonna go real fast. Books on Wheels, you guys are up next. Any questions, you guys? GL students can ask questions too. No questions? You guys are perfect? All right, let's thank these guys. Yeah, that one was forward.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Natalia Guillén Coello, and as my peers before me, I come to present to you a social impact project that was created in GL. This one is particularly important to me because it focuses on an SDG I truly believe in, which is SDG number 4, quality education. You may all agree with me that education is the foundation for every successful form of development. However, it remains limited for privileged communities. This is why my group created Books on Wheels. This is particularly true in Latin America, which is where I'm from Honduras. However, as we move on further in the presentation, I am going to explain why Puerto Rico is the best location to start this program and expand later to Central and Latin American countries. But first of all, to understand why I started this project, I wanted to understand who I am. And unfortunately, there was someone else that was going to present with me, Alejandro, but he got sick. So today, I'm going to explain my personal reasons for creating this project. Well, seeing as I am from Tegucigalpa, Honduras, I saw that in my community, education was dismal, to say the least. So I started One Page at a Time, which is an initiative that attempts to implement mobile libraries in rural schools in Tegucigalpa, Honduras. We bring the resources to the children, enabling them to have the means to receive an education that will guide them to bright futures. This is why we created Books on Wheels. Now, I know some people don't connect emotionally with some things. You're more of a numbers person. So you can see here how the statistics show that this is necessary. 82% of children can read at 4th grade level. What does this tell you? Most children graduate and they cannot even read a book correctly. 99% of 3rd graders can read at their level, which means that our systems let children pass the exams and they don't have the capabilities to do so. They just want to say that education is working, whereas it is not. 43% live below the poverty line. What does this tell you? That most of our target audience, or half of it at least, does not have the means to pay for private systems. Seeing this, we acknowledge the urgent need for an education system that brings and gives the resources to children, enabling them to have the tools to get themselves not only get better jobs, but to break that poverty and illiteracy cycle. Additionally, Puerto Rico also faces natural disasters, which is terrible because there's a hurricane, schools shut down, the infrastructure is bad, there's no lights, there's no teachers, there's no way to reach them, education stops. The children stop receiving classes for prolonged periods of time, they get delayed on the school systems, and that's just a never-ending cycle because an illiterate population then has children that doesn't go to school, and thus the cycle starts again. So this is why we decided that this was the most pressing issue and we had to target it. However, why Puerto Rico, you may ask? For instance, English as an economic barrier means that most Latin American countries have the difficulty that we learn in Spanish. My primary language is in Spanish. But most people apply to the US because you have the better opportunities in university level. How can you apply to the US if you don't know English? And how can companies attempt to provide volunteers as teachers if the volunteers only speak English? So starting in Puerto Rico, which is a country that has most of their speakers speak English and Spanish, is a very easy way to get volunteers to go, which reduces costs, which is also important for an NGO. And additionally, it allows companies to provide more funding. Then the key to the Americas, Puerto Rico is also a country that has citizenship to America. So it's easier for children to gain access to the university system. And then climate change. As I mentioned before, Puerto Rico suffers a lot from natural disasters. This means that it has a unique difficulty, which is that teachers and resources cannot reach children when these disasters hit. Now, you may ask, what are our aims with this? As I mentioned before, our first aim is to get the resources to the children. What does this mean? It means implementing a mobile system that will take reading materials, it will take writing supplies, and it will take professionals to provide workshops to teachers and enable them with the tools to provide education to children. Now, aim 2 is more of a measurement and a long-term vision, because as my teammate who isn't here, he created the Flanner Collective, which was a few slides back. It's essentially a platform that enables students to write their own material. And that way, we can not only measure the success rate of this initiative, because seeing how someone writes, which is the ultimate product of education, if you can produce your own material, that means that you are at the peak of education. If you can teach and if you can write, that means that you understand something fully. So this is a way for us to measure, but also a way to incentivize children to actually become writers, to become people that are aiming to promote their ideas, to share with the world what they think. Now, this is a diagram that shows exactly the 4 stages and how they interconnect. First, there's donations, as I said before, taking the writing supplies, taking the teachers, providing the workshops, which is tied to a training program. Our goal is to start with 1 bus that will target 5 cities in Puerto Rico. So we will be taking the reading materials and the teachers that will provide the workshops. And that way we can also avoid disaster. This will also provide disaster relief. Because if the school's flood, if, for instance, there was a hurricane and there's no light, we can still provide classes by moving everything and getting to the towns. And lastly, the writing platform is the last aim I mentioned before, connecting everything to measure the success rate of our initiative. This is more of a midterm and long-term objectives, kind of what I went through, but I'm almost out of time, so I'm gonna move forward. And then this is the current impact. I'm so sad that Alejandro wasn't here today because this is his accomplishment. The Flanner Collective has reached over 10,000 people in over 20 countries, which means that students around the world have produced writing and have included it in this platform. Additionally, it is collaborating with Hopeful Change, which is a mental health profit in Atlanta. This means that this is very plausible. This is an initiative that already has users. And honestly, I think that with proposals like this, we can break the cycle of poverty and illiteracy, creating a brighter future for Puerto Rico. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope that if you believe in this, you can talk to me after. Thank you so much.
Any questions? Yep, please.
Hi, my name is Paola. I'm from Costa Rica. So this is amazing. I love hearing how you perform. This is kind of a little technical, but I was wondering where you got the statistics from.
The statistics?
Are these specific to Puerto Rico, or are they specific to Latin America, or?
Oh, the statistics are specific to Puerto Rico. I didn't clarify that when I was speaking.
Thank you. Thank you. Good job. Bring the next guys down.
Why are we here today? I don't mean what is the purpose of today, but how did we get to where we are presently? It is thanks to our education. I know I'm no revolutionary for saying that education is important. And to tell you the truth, we don't have a complex plan to save the world from ignorance. But what we would like to share with you all today is a simple solution that can turn a small amount of investment into monumental increases in childhood education. It has to do with the link between fine motor skills and cognitive abilities. When predicting future reading and math abilities, current fine motor skills are just as good a predictor as are current reading and math skills. If your first thought was the same as mine, that the relationship is correlative and not causative, we also have neuro research that shows that the same part of the brain developed while learning reading and math is the same part of the brain developed during fine motor skills. In other words, if you improve one, you improve the other. With this in mind, when we look at countries with the highest percentages of children out of school, such as Bolivia in South America, perhaps the solution is not a large-scale and expensive educational reform, but rather an increased focus on fine motor skills.
Our solution, the pautita. Anyone who has worked with kids knows that kids get bored of toys fast, but we're looking for a sustainable, long-term educational tool that kids can use throughout their lives. So we decided to make a toy that can meet kids halfway and adapt to different difficulty levels. The main feature of the pautita are the adjustable segments, as you can see in the second image here. Most traditional threading toys are one single plane, and this means that kids really only have one configuration to work with. Our pautita is unique because kids can adjust the segments in infinite coordinations and have infinite ways that they can play with it and interact with it. Not only that, but we incorporated an avocado and caterpillar design because we hope to launch this in Padilla, Bolivia, where avocados and caterpillars are common. And it's well known that making connections between things kids interact with in their daily life and the toys they play with leads to great cognitive development. Additionally, because we want this to be a sustainable solution, we want children from 6 months to 3 years to be able to use this toy. Because of that, we had to put some safety measures in place to make sure it was safe for all ages. One of those is making the threading string removable. I'm sure anyone with kids knows that that's a big concern around young children. So by making that removable, we make that safe for all ages. We also have a non-toxic bitter coating just to avoid any biting or anything like that. And if there is biting, our plastic is cutlery safe, so it'll be totally fine. So I mentioned earlier that our target age group is 6 months to 3 years, and you guys are probably wondering how such a complicated threading toy could be used for so many different age groups and so many different developmental levels. The pautita is so unique because since the string is removable, as soon as you remove the string, it becomes your average rotating rattle toy, which is commonly used among any child around 6 months. And it's scientifically proven that actions such as rotating segments, passing things from hand to hand, and toys that have holes in them are really helpful to children around 6 months to develop their foundational motor skills. So this means that as the child adapts, they can adapt the toy with them as they progress. Additionally, because the toy can be in so many configurations, it helps them develop their hand-eye coordination and spatial concept, all which are essential to developing both fine motor skills and great cognitive ability.
Another aspect that makes this toy different from others on the market, that makes it more innovative, is its materials. This toy will be made from bioplastics, which is an environmentally friendly material produced from renewable resources. Avocados are native to Bolivia, which means that producing this toy would not be expensive. And additionally, using the seeds and skins of avocados ensures that we're not depleting food sources from the region. Avocado's byproducts are 15 to 20% cellulose, which has been proven to be adequate in materials for heat resistance, durability, and flexibility. Cellulose is important for bioplastics because it is a complex carbohydrate, which gives it the structure and foundation that is perfect for biodegradability, making it a lot more sustainable than traditional plastic competitors. Additionally, if we were to adapt this approach to other Latin American countries, we could use plants such as cassava and plantains, which are not only local to other Latin American countries, but are also 30 to 40% starch, which is also a complex carb.
One of our biggest goals was for this product to be able to be manufactured locally in Bolivia using local materials to create job opportunities and uplift the economy and the community. We would like to empower them to potentially take this product to other regions as their own product. Looking at our budget, we realize that some of the costs will be higher initially when laying the grounds for the manufacturing process to begin. These costs will go down over time. Regardless, the unit price per toy is still lower than existing solutions. In the US, you could easily pay up to $50 for a similar product. Our main goal for this grant is to test the efficacy of the toy in this area to determine whether to take it further and how much further we want to take it. We chose to look at Padilla, a small agricultural town in an impoverished area in Bolivia, specifically because we hope to partner with an existing non-profit organization situated there, an organization that the people know and trust already. In conclusion, we believe that this is a simple, sustainable solution with a small investment that could lead to a monumental improvement in both childhood education and opportunities for a better future. We would like to urge you all to empower their hands and elevate their futures.
Thank you.
Any questions? Yes, please, in the back.
So while we have prototyped it before, so we do know that the device structure does work, we haven't had a chance to test it on a group of students yet, but we would really, really like to, and we're very eager to see its efficacy.
Thank you. Great question. Excellent. Thank you guys for bringing the next group out.
Good afternoon. Today we're presenting Prep for Life, Reducing HIV Prevalence in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa by Ava Norton, Tamdi Bilamoy, and Ravina Ali.
When we first got together as a group, we decided that we wanted to work with SDG 5, gender equality, because it was an issue that spoke heavily to us as a group of all girls. We all did individual research on different problems within the gender equality scope, such as child marriages, genetic mutations, physical and emotional abuse, and so many more. As a group, we decided to look more into issues within child marriages, and we found that there is a high HIV contraction rate among girls in child marriages. This led us down another path there, which said that HIV contraction in adolescent girls, this led us down another path of HIV contraction in adolescent girls in general, and we decided that this was the issue that we wanted to focus on.
In 2022 alone, 33.9 million people were living with HIV, 630,000 people died from HIV-related causes, and 1.3 million people became newly infected. We specifically chose South Africa because it has 8.3 million HIV cases, making it the country with the largest HIV epidemic. And within South Africa, we're focusing on the province of KwaZulu-Natal, which accounts for nearly 20% of these cases, and where nearly 1,300 adolescent girls are infected with HIV every week. To give more insight on just how severe the situation is, around 60% of women in the KwaZulu-Natal province are HIV positive. And while this is a critical issue, less than 5% of the girls in KwaZulu-Natal are enrolled on PrEP. Now you may be wondering, what exactly is PrEP? While there is no direct cure for HIV, there are preventative measures one can take. PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis, a preventative medication taken to block HIV. While it is important, like we discussed previously, it's important to focus on young girls as they are disproportionately affected due to many factors. One being cultural practices like early marriage, which often subject these girls to unconsensual sex. And the worsening of the situation is the stigma on HIV in South Africa, which makes it harder for the girls to seek and ask for help.
For the first part of our innovation, we will be creating a grassroots organization that employs local nurses and doctors to work with the local high schools in KwaZulu-Natal. We are hoping that this first part of our innovation will help address the stigma around HIV. And these local nurses are hired to work directly with the local high schools to host educational assemblies and build community. For the second part of our innovation, we will be providing accessibility to the PrEP pills for the girls of the local high schools in KwaZulu-Natal. We will be providing permission slips for the parental consent so that the girls have consent before they start the medication. And if families or parents are concerned, they will be able to ask questions to the nurses through meetings, and they will be able to discuss their concerns there. And these trained nurses will be the ones to provide the PrEP pills, and they will be continuing with the educational assemblies as well as build communities so that the girls have a safe space to ask for help and have support.
Okay, thank you, Ava. So how are we going to actually go about getting this program implemented and getting it up and running within high school communities in KwaZulu-Natal? So to start with, once we establish a head office in KwaZulu-Natal and a doctor as well as local nurses are all onboarded, we will begin implementation of the Prep for Life program within high schools through engaging in interactive assembly presentations, gaining parental consent, and local nurses will begin administering PrEP medication. In terms of how we're going to measure the program's effectiveness, we will be conducting surveys and focus groups throughout the year to generally gauge effectiveness, accessibility, usage of prep, and gain feedback on what's going really well and what aspects of the program we might consider improving or changing. Now, this section is going to be really critical, especially in the beginning as we start to gain visibility, and it will be our partnerships. So how are we going to actually reach out to and incentivize schools to participate? We will reach out to and establish partnerships with the South African Ministries of Health and Education, as well as local community leaders, health departments, and nonprofits. Finding creative ways to advertise the Prep for Life program and incentivizing schools who choose to participate through more funding, increased benefits, and increased salaries for teachers, staff, and school administrators. In addition, free training will be offered to all teachers, administrators, and school counselors. And then sort of as we look ahead, what are we really envisioning for this program? This is kind of our initial quote unquote like pilot program, our first phase of the program, but once this is complete and when everything goes well, we do plan to really expand our target audience and reach out to more high schools within KwaZulu-Natal and middle schools as well.
Thank you so much for your time, and please let us know if you have any feedback or questions.
Thank you all so much.
Any questions? No questions from the GL students either? All right, I guess you guys did a perfect job. Good job, you guys.
Whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'm Leo Ashkin.
And I'm Judith Ugalde, and our grant is a study into seismometers in road condition monitoring and applications. Now, before you ask yourself, how can filling a pothole change the world? In the words of Shakira, these numbers don't lie. So, delving deeper, roads are essential in providing local industries access to national and international markets. This is especially true for landlocked countries like Mali, where the agricultural sector makes up over 35% of the economy. Now, with only half the distance of 1,288 kilometers, which is longer than from here in Atlanta to Toronto, Canada, the Dakar-Bamako road corridor is in good condition for only half of that. And the total trade between Mali and Senegal being over $703 million US. It's clear that the development of better roads is vital to improving economic conditions everywhere. A study in Ethiopia showed that 15.6% less households fell into or remained in poverty when they were in an area connected to good, well-weathered roads. This is a problem around the world. In the US, 1/3 of accidents are caused by poor road condition. And the total societal harm, according to NHTSA, is $1.5 trillion US. Now, I'm sure you're all looking at the quote in the middle of the screen, which is, "This epidemic kills more Africans than AIDS." And when we think of the word epidemic, bad road conditions don't come to mind, which really puts that quote into perspective. Now, road traffic injuries are the world's silent killer, as mentioned before, and they're the 8th leading cause of death across all ages. And they rank above others by 1.3 million a year above tuberculosis or malaria. And they disproportionately affect low-income countries, with 90% of the burden being borne by countries in the sub-Saharan Africa and Southeast Asia.
So So how does this relate to the SDGs? Well, this directly relates to SDG 9.1, to develop quality, reliable, sustainable, and resilient infrastructure to support economic growth and human well-being, with a focus on affordable and equitable access for all, and target 3.6, to halve global deaths and injuries from road traffic accidents. All these facts and figures are well and good, but how are we actually going to achieve this? I'm sure everyone has felt the ground shake when a semi-truck or motor vehicle has driven past them on the street. This shake is actually a seismic wave, like the ones that occur during earthquakes. Having thought about this, we realized that if we could measure these seismic waves, we could actually determine the road conditions, i.e. more potholes, more vibrations. This seismometer, which will be connected to a single board computer, will relay the details of these vibrations, such as the amplitude and the intensity of the wave, back to a central server, where a convoluted neural network will process this data. So, we will perform testing within the USA to save costs, especially because of the current administration and stuff like that. And I'm not sure whether you've noticed, but there aren't any potholes at all in Atlanta. So I'm sure we could perform plenty of testing here. So how will this project look in the long term? Seismometers will be placed at 1 mile intervals on paved roads, and can be placed at greater intervals on less paved roads due to the lower frequency of traffic. This data will be displayed on a traffic management system to local authorities or any relevant authorities. And this will display not only the type of damage on the roadway, but also the location of the damage, which will aid crews who go to fix these potholes in finding them faster, thus saving money and time for local governments. We welcome suggestions for any steps forward, and thank you. And now I will open the floor to questions.
Any questions out there? Yeah, Umar. Yes, so that's the purpose of the convoluted neural network. So I didn't mention this, but to say, for the convoluted neural network to see what the vibrations from a pothole specifically look like, we will run a car or a series of motor vehicles within the highway associations, like classes of vehicles, over certain types of potholes in a controlled environment, obviously, and that will enable us to determine what the vibrational, so to say, signature of certain types of road damage looks like, so potholes and cracks and different stuff like that.
And we'll also look at different weather types like snow, rain, ice, and just dirt roads and asphalt.
What do you see as one of the greatest challenges in designing a project such as this? And how did you overcome any obstacles?
So probably the greatest obstacle we overcame was probably the more technical aspect. A lot of research was put into how we actually determine the location of certain damage using seismometers. So it's very much also ground soil dependent. So as we mentioned in the testing, different types of environments mean seismic waves travel differently. Different soil compositions mean seismic waves travel differently. So using those and to analyze, using those pieces of data and combined with the data we get from the seismometers will help us, we'll have to calculate the speed of the wave, and that's dependent on the soil. So that was probably the greatest challenge to overcome in this project.
Do you see this project being transferable to other countries, to other areas, in terms of scaling it up? And what would that look like?
So like we mentioned before, we're going to start testing here in the U.S., especially since the U.S. has such a broad range of different weather types. I mean, you go up to New York and you get snow, your snow's up to here, there's ice everywhere. If you go down to Florida, there's hurricanes, Texas, it's really dry. So testing it here, then we can apply it to other, let's say, hot countries, other dry countries, other countries where it snows. So that's why we're planning to start it here, so we can save costs in transportation and not asking other governments for funding as well.
Yeah, and just going along with that, the seismometers themselves will be connected via narrowband IoT to a program. So they will only relay when, so to say, there is an event out of the usual. So that, because they aim to be they're self-sustaining. So a little, for example, like a Raspberry Pi can be connected to these seismometers, and they'll be run off a small battery pack and the solar panel, and then that will relay information back to, so to say, a traffic management system where, as I said, relevant authorities like the Highway Department can have a look at it. And it's particularly useful for like rural areas because that's where most of the unseen damage occurs. That's where you have to get the biggest potholes. And so if you're only transmitting when you need to, you're just saving a lot of energy for the seismometer itself.
Thank you, guys. Good job. We're moving into our last presentation. Good. Here's the thing. This flips it forward and backwards. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eunice Maya, and I'm a first year studying biology at Georgia Tech. We are in this room to discuss one of the most important topics in this ever-changing world, and that is innovative solutions to global challenges. When I first came to global leadership, I knew I wanted to do something global in the future, possibly something health-related, but when I was presented with this grant proposal project in our global leadership class, my teammates and I gravitated towards SDG number 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. And the process of brainstorming our solutions were pretty difficult because we wanted to find something that would have an impact at the local level and that would eventually have a more global one. And so to start my presentation, we all have a general idea of what negative impacts our current roads may have on us. And no, it's not that there's always construction going on. Greenhouse gases, increased fatalities, and habitat loss are only a few, but I want to put this into perspective so that we all understand that going towards SDG number 11 is a multifaceted issue. So first, fossil fuels. Fossil fuels continue to dominate global energy production, and it accounts for 97% of direct primary energy consumption just in 2023. Next, 150 quadrillion joules of energy are lost to vehicle braking just in the United States each year. And furthermore, cities account for 70% of greenhouse gas emissions, and that number is expected to increase. And by 2030, passenger traffic is projected to increase by 50%. And road accidents kill 1.24 million critically and injure 20 to 50 million annually worldwide. And while the sale of electric vehicles are increasing, this does not decrease the amount of gasoline-powered vehicles in the global south. And as you can see with the third point, not only do these problems affect the environment, but there is a direct correlation with deaths. And we can see that this is a multifaceted issue. And also, if we want to decrease the global number of deaths by half by 2030, as the WHO presented in their UN General Assembly in 2020, we must move forward with this issue. So, what is this that we need? What is our solution that will not only significantly reduce the negative impacts of urbanization, but also expand access to renewable energy to create a more sustainable city around the world? This is our solution, and you guys saw it, and it's EcoPress, the solar panel pressure plate system. You guys might see our prototype going around, so if you guys would like to see that, it's there. And just to put it into perspective, this is what it would look like. This solution not only counteracts braking energy loss, but also tackles potentially reducing the probability of traffic accidents by automatically slowing down vehicles at intersections and dually harvesting and storing energy into our city's grid lines. EcoPress incorporates the following components: a panel covering and a steel frame, a solar panel array, a steel undercarriage and a DC generator, as well as the Belleville springs and a 6-to-1 sun gear and inner shaft. Okay. So to address our innovation, we have efficiency. This product will be strategically placed before intersections to utilize the pressure of vehicles. And for sustainability, there are existing companies that utilize pressure plates, but they store their generated energy in single-use batteries, whereas EcoPress distributes the harvested energy directly back into city infrastructure. And we also combine the aspect of solar panels and pressure plates to create more energy. And for regenerative braking, we will improve upon the regenerative braking by powering public infrastructure rather than just recycling energy back into a car. So, down the road, our short-term goal is to conduct rigorous testing rounds of materials, weight tolerance, and energy conversion, and vehicle braking in order to develop a model that is durable, efficient, and effectively completes dual energy harvesting and vehicle braking. And our long-term goal is to partner with the City of Atlanta to further our goal of establishing EcoPress. And so on behalf of my group, we hope that EcoPress interested you, and who knows, you might see EcoPress on your busy city roads soon. And so understanding that for all of us to survive and prosper, that we need new, intelligent urban planning that creates safe, affordable, and resilient cities with green and culturally inspiring living conditions. Thank you.
Great job. Any questions? Any last second questions? Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, let me just close by saying thank you. I know we're a minute or two over time. So proud of you guys. Totally believe in you and believe that you're going to change the world. So thanks everyone, and we're happy to chat after.